Today we're going to be using inverse trig functions. So you can use inverse trig functions to find angle measurements.
Do you want the door closed? All right.
Work on the senior video.
Cool.
All right. You can do this when you know two sides of a right triangle. You do not need to find the third. So don't waste your time doing Pythagorean theorem. You just need to know two sides, opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse, two of those, and you can do your trig functions. So inverse trig, we'll usually write them with the -1, because that's what our calculator looks like. Sine -1, x, cosine -1, and tangent. But for some reason, the SAT likes to use words. So did anyone see arc sine on their SAT and have no clue what it was? That's what it is. This is what it is. So that's why I always share the words.
Do Christmas themed justices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just have gas on those ones.
That's pretty much what I did with the whole essay.
Yeah, those ones are, I skip those and then I just write down.
So to find the inverse, if you know y equals the sine of x, you can switch the variables and then take the inverse. So this would be sine -1 of y equals x. The variables switch if you remember doing inverse functions. This would be inverse sine cosine of y equals x, and inverse sine tan of y equals x. It'll be much easier whenever we get to the problems. You'll see that the buttons are located right above sine and cosine tangent, so you just have to press second and do those. You do want to make sure you are in degree mode today, because I think all of our problems are in degrees. So check and make sure you're not in radians before we start.
I don't either. I really don't.
Okay.
I don't know how I'm going to sit here and do it for 2 hours.
So example 1, all of these questions are literally just type them in your calculator. So if you want to find out what B is, you're finding the measure of the angle, that indicates that you're going to use inverse sine. So you're going to switch these around and make it inverse of square root of 3 over 2, and that will equal B. And then all you have to do is type that in your calculator. So we would type in second, well, let me make sure I'm in degrees. Second sine, to get sine -1. Now be careful when you type this in. The square root of 3, the calculator puts a parenthesis. You have to close it before you do divide by 2. We'll get B is 60 degrees. Next one, we would switch these around. When you flip them, that's when you take your inverse. Type that into our calculator.
We have to write it down every time.
No, you can just do this in your calculator. You should get B is 30. Go ahead and try the next two. It does say round to the nearest degree, which means the nearest whole number. What do we get for C? 75 degrees. How about D?
8.2.
What?
8.2.
We'll just round to the nearest whole number, so 8.
Sorry.
These should be very easy. We could probably teach a monkey to press the buttons.
Yeah, I like this.
Is this all we're doing, or just?
Some of your homework questions will look at this. Now on the back, what we're going to do is we're going to take away the trig function. You're going to have to identify which trig function to use. So all you have to do is label the sides. So based on this, and you might want to put an X here instead of a question mark, just so you have a variable. 9 would be my opposite side. 21 would be my adjacent side. Don't label that hypotenuse because you don't have a number there and it's not going to help you. And then we use SOHCAHTOA to pick a trig function. Which trig function will I pick? Tangent. Okay, so this would be tangent of x equals 9 over 21. Tangent of the angle equals the opposite over the adjacent. Now since we want to solve for x, we're going to switch these and make it an inverse. Once you realize this, you probably won't have to do any work. You'll just type that in your calculator once you realize what's going on. But if you need to show the work, you can. Now this goes in our calculator. Oops. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Should be 21 instead of... We should get 23.198. They want us to round to the nearest degree, which means whole number. So that would be 23 degrees.
Because you do an inverse, it doesn't become negative.
No. Now in example B, notice we have all three sides this time, right? We have opposite, we have adjacent, and we have hypotenuse. So which trig function should I pick? Any of them. Doesn't matter which one you pick. You can do sine, which would be opposite over hypotenuse. You could also do cosine. You don't have to do all three, but you would just do one. Or you could do tangent. Obviously, you then have to do your inverse to switch them around. And I'll show you how all three will get you the same answer. You should get 53. If I do the cosine, I also get 53. And if you do the tangent, you also get 53. Do you have to do all three? No, just pick one and do that one. But it doesn't matter which one you pick, you will get 53 degrees. Some students just like always do the sine or always do the tan, whichever one you see most easily. Just stick with that and do that for anyone who has three. Go ahead and try examples C and D on your own. Find the angle of elevation, so x is here. So again, we would label this as our opposite. This is our adjacent. We would not label the hypotenuse. What trig function are we using? Tangent. So to save yourself time, you know you're going to do the inverse because you're finding the angle. So just do inverse tan of 10 over 7.3 or 17. You can save yourself from doing that first step once you realize you're finding the angle. You really don't have to show any work. You could do it all in your calculator if you understand what's going on. We should get 30 degrees. All done. The homework, you're only doing the odds. I think I crossed off the events, so you know you don't have to do
Yeah,
it.
you crossed it.
So nice.
So,
The frontal, I think it's.
No, front and back. So it'll take you about 5 minutes. Evan, is that fair? 2? Okay.